And we are back with another episode of Liam Picks Fights. I am very excited today to bring you not one, but two exciting guests. First off, we are going to have a guest capper come in at Marathon MMA on Twitter. Very sharp guy, lots of good reads. I have learned a lot myself just from following his account over the time, but this is a profitable handicapper, somebody you want to take serious, and we're very grateful to have him on the show. He's going to do a quick hit off the top, and then we are going to have another guest capper come in for you guys for the full card breakdown. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in today's first guest at Marathon MMA. Marathon, how you doing, man? Welcome aboard. All right. We seem to have lost him in the broadcast studio for some reason, but we're going to get Marathon right back. I can let you guys know off the top that we will be having another guest capper at Bets and Picks MMA. Here he is, Marathon. Welcome aboard.
How's it going, man?
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's going very well, man. I'm excited about these fights. How about yourself?
Oh, yeah, man. The main event alone.
Absolutely. Worth the price of admission, as they say, right? What a fight. It's the, premier division right now for up-and-coming contenders in that bantamweight division. Okay, says, sup, G. Well, welcome aboard. Thank you for stopping by. Marathon, I know that you have some action that you want to get off your chest. I know that you've got a time constraint today. So what's the first fight of the night? Where are we taking the people?
So first bet of the night, I got Eubanks parlayed with the over 2.5 in the Ewell RK fight.
Okay.
At minus 115.
Very nice.
I was looking, for other ways to parlay with Eubanks to parlay, and I just couldn't really find it. So I opted to go with the prop with the over 2.5.
Okay. Now let me ask you this. I have Yanez parlayed with Eubanks. What do you think about that wager?
So I'm also on Yanez as a straight bet. I was already on him right from the jump. So Eubanks, I wasn't really on her, but just a few days ago, I kind of started coming around just because it just seems tailor-made for her to get this win. We got a 6-inch reach advantage, huge grappling edge, probably comes in heavy, which is going to help us. I doubt she makes the weight. And another
I love a good cheater, man. Nothing better. If you're not cheating, you're not trying in this sport. Am I right?
Yeah, and another thing, man, is she might have – Reed's got good striking on tape. She does have good little karate base, but Eubanks is over there training with Chukagi, and, she's getting that unorthodox sparring with her. She might even have the edge on the feet here, man, because she does throw some heat. She's going to walk her down more than likely. She's going to be the aggressor. And she's just been in there with girls that wouldn't be sanctioned against Reed. Like Aspen Ladd is huge. This girl, Reed used to fight at atomweight. You got girls like Kianzad, who's huge. You got, who's the other one? Julia Avila, huge.
Oh, my gosh. Absolutely. A powerhouse at 135.
Eubanks is fighting these big girls, and she's going to splits with them and decisions with them, and she's making a good account of herself. But yeah, Reed's just really small, man. It's a lot to ask going up to 125. She just fought at atomweight in December 2020. That was her original weight class.
Yeah.
So I'm not a big fan of Eubanks as a fighter, but in this matchup, it just seems like she should be able to get it done however she wants. I don't know if she finishes here, but the one plus 180 inside the distance is sneaky, and I've seen people taking that approach. Maybe get a mount, ground and pound, because Reed has put herself in some really bad spots on tape, and I'm sure you've seen that as well.
Absolutely. And I think that, Sijara, because of the 6-6 record, I think one of the easier fighters to wiki cap is like, why would she be such a big favorite? But I do think that Sijara is going to justify the price just based on a size disparity that favors a grappler. I think is such a big advantage, and people that maybe don't grapple wouldn't know exactly. And I think in striking matchups, it's not necessarily as big a difference as long as your power translates. But I think in a grappling type exchange, if you're at a grappling deficit and also a size deficit, it's just going to be quick work. So I think that you might be onto something with that Sijara inside the distance. I have not yet targeted that myself. We got a couple people shouting you out. Goat emojis. I doubt that's about me. Let's go Marathon from Don. So bunch of people loving the way that you're feeling about this. I bet a lot of people agree with us on the Sarge take. Where else on you said what was your angle on the total for the Arce fight?
So one more thing that I wanted to mention, because Eubanks is kind of gotten this rep as a gasser. I saw something that Sparring with Reality posted on Twitter. She's won the third round in 5 of her last 8 fights. And
narrative, where the narrative meets reality, right?
The lad Eubanks fight, that was a 10-8 round in the third, man. That should have been a draw. She 10-8'd Aspen Ladd, who's a minus 200 favorite on the co-main of this card. So just wanted to mention that. So the parlay piece was over 2.5 in the Ewell RK fight, which I don't think anyone can make an argument how this fight doesn't hit round 3. I mean,
I feel
Ewell's not a finisher. RK's coming down to a new weight class that he hasn't fought in years. I'm not really too worried. No one's worried about Ewell finishing a fight. I mean, so you look to the RK side.
Split decision city.
You look to the RK side because, Ewell can't even finish a sandwich. So you look to the RK side and, what is he going to try to do here? If he stays at range, he's going to lose a 29-28 split decision. So he's going to try to get inside, probably wrestle, So either way, I think got time.
You would hope.
Either way, I think we got time ticking off the clock here, man. So I haven't seen any real take on either side of finishing. So I don't think it's a bold take by any means, but I do like this fight to go over for sure.
Awesome. So that is the parlay pieces. We got Sijara, Eubanks. We got over 2.5 rounds. Did you have any other action that you wanted to get off your chest?
Oh, so I do actually have a good amount of plays on this slate. I did take Yanez 2.5 units at minus 195 and then sprinkled the KO plus 150.
Very nice.
And so, I mean, you could start off with why you're on Yanez, and we can see maybe if we agree here.
Absolutely. So I was going back and watching the tape on Yanez. I think he's the more sound, patient, structured striker. I think that there's a lot of kind of madness to the other side. I don't really see as much of a second round, a third round angle for him. I feel like it's a very front loaded approach, whereas Yanez has patience. He can get a finish early. He can crack somebody with a hard shot, but he also has a game that he can win rounds. He can win minutes. And I really think that over the course of time, he's going to start picking him apart. And I feel like, especially if you're going to empty the gas tank early, I feel like that just leaves you out there hanging around with a guy who can pick you apart at range. Bad setup. I think that you're onto something with the KO as well. I feel like Yanez is going to get him out of there.
Yeah, man. Like you said, the longer the fight goes, the more it favors our guys. So I do like that angle pretty much. I like cardio, man. So
ABC say always bet on cardio.
Yeah. So Costa's probably first round or bust here. The plus 950 on his knockout round 1 is that line's probably off. So if you wanted to go big on Yanez, you could always throw some lunch money on that prop. Yanez is more slicker. The longer the fight goes, the more it favors him. Kind of like the Poirier McGregor. I liked Poirier just because the longer it went, the more it was just going to be all Poirier. We also probably have a massive cardio edge here since Costa did fade in that Brandon Davis fight. I mean, if he doesn't get you out of there, he's kill or be killed pretty quick. Yanez has been 5 rounds. He went 5 rounds with Miles Johns and looked good in the 4 and 5, and arguably won that fight. So,
split decision with a grinding wrestler, which is not what he has in this matchup.
Yeah, no, I just feel like the combinations are they're going to be too much, man. And Costa kind of throws one thing at a time. It's just kind of like a basic 1-2 down the pipe, and Yanez is just going to be able to pick him apart. I think Yanez has some of the best boxing in the UFC, so I like him here in a stand-up fight. So yeah, I got 2.5 units there, sprinkled the knockout at plus 150, and then we can go ahead and move over.
More experience too. I just feel like because the Zohan came into this so young in the game and so inexperienced, now he's got a couple wins under his belt. Maybe he's going to feel confident, but I really don't think that he has the seasoning in tough fights. You got to get in tough fights with guys that you can beat before you get in tough fights with guys that would be tough fights, from round 1 on. So I feel like Yanez is going to start out looking like a minus 150 and then end up looking like a minus 400 rounds 2 and 3.
Yeah,
But I
ugly.
like your angle, man. I can't say that I wasn't tempted. It was, I think, bet down to plus 900 by the time I saw it. But plus 900 still has some upside for me in round one for Yanez, because I feel like that's still where his win equity is front loaded, is into that first round. So you might as well get the chance instead of just betting the money line where, I think you get plus 180 or something like that. You get most of the same win equity covered at a much greater return with the round one prop.
Definitely.
Yep.
So we can move over to the next bet. I did put 2.5 units on Derek Minner, minus 150.
Okay.
This one's pretty black and white. It just comes down to him being the younger, fresher guy. I think I'm doing myself a disservice if I'm not doing a double take on a Darren Elkins line, and he just had a career performance against Charles Rosa, a black belt. Minner's more known for his finish ability, goes out there and controls a black belt on his back the whole fight. And it just seems like it's the James Krause effect, man. It seems like the dude's just coming into his best form while Elkins is, on his way out. So Elkins is, he has a win over Grigori, but that was tailor-made matchup. The dude didn't know how to stuff a takedown. And I feel like this spot in his career, Elkins is only going to win fights against guys who don't know how to stuff a takedown. So Minner's slick on the ground. He's got good stand-up. He's a finisher. So I did take 2.5 units on him. Like I said, man, we're kind of when these older fighters who just took so much damage, you got to try to cash in on their last few fights.
I hear that. And I feel like a lot of people are kicking themselves over the Jacare opportunity lost against Muniz, by example. So I hear what you're saying. You got to try and get it while the going's good before the UFC realizes what we see as gamblers, that they let them go on to greener pastures. Same thing with JDS. A couple opportunities on the way out. But what I will say real quick is we can bring in at Bets and Picks MMA knockout bets. We're going to bring him in, see if he agrees.
What's up, boys? How's it going?
How's it going? Thanks for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure. Can you see me all right? I feel like I'm kind of dark.
No, we see you, man.
Absolutely.
Right, cool.
I can see that glistening chain. You're looking fresh.
Awesome. Appreciate that. How's it going?
Absolutely, man. It's going quite well. Right now we're talking about the Minner and Elkins fight. We got one side so far for Marathon. He is on the Minner side. How do you feel about this one?
I kind of feel like the line's right. I love betting Minner historically, like in the fight before this past one against who was that? TJ Brown. What was his name? Something like that.
Laramie. TJ Laramie.
Yep. I had like Minner sub round one, fight ends by sub, like all of it, and he went out and choked him in like 40 seconds, and I was pumped. But I have no bets on this fight as of right now. I kind of think Minner is a slight favorite, probably makes sense. Elkins is historically a good grappler. He's good positionally, solid wrestler. I think Minner's stand-up actually is probably a little underrated because he's not usually there, but I feel like the time that we have seen him on the feet, he actually has looked pretty good. And I just think it's kind of going to be a lot of crazy grappling exchanges. I feel like I give a slight edge to Minner, but not enough where I think there's any value on the line.
Understood. Now, I would tend to agree with both of you that I would think that Minner is a deserving favorite in this spot. I don't have money yet on this fight, but I had considered a play on Minner. The only thing that kept me off him was when I was watching the tape back, I was a little concerned by some of the cardio dumps that we've seen, the Grant Dawson fight, by example. Now, I thought that fight, Grant Dawson missed weight by a pretty considerable margin, and he kind of beat the shit out of Grant Dawson for like 4.5 minutes, like really had him on the ropes for a while. But I also do think that Elkins is the kind of guy that could survive that kind of flurry. Maybe not at this point in his career, but historically he has been able to. And so it does make me sweat the idea of sitting there with Derek Minner completely gassed with, 4 to 6 minutes left on the clock. So I think that Minner is probably the side, and I think that he could finish him quick if we see, a regression, which would be understandable at this point from Darren Elkins. But I think that if Elkins shows up looking like himself, it could still be a little bit greasy and he could win the third round. So for that reason, I have stayed off so far. But if more action comes in, I feel like I've seen a lot of action coming the way the other side. So, I'd be happy to play Minner if the price comes down a little bit, but I think at minus 150, I would let that lie for now, or at least I'm letting it lie.
The other thing I'll say too is ever since Minner started working with James Krause, he's taken way more of a conservative approach. As in the past, pre-James Krause, he'd be going crazy, jumping for guillotines in the first round. But in his last fight against Rosa, I was
impressed.
You could hear Krause yelling from the corner, "Stay in half guard, stay in half guard." I was like, I'd make a joke that James Krause ruined Derek Minner because he was like the most fun fighter on the roster before Krause was got him to calm down a little bit.
He used the logic on him, unfortunately. I thought that was an impressive win, though, over Rosa. And I did think that it showed that he's continuing to improve, which is important. I don't think that we're going to see an improved version of Darren Elkins, certainly, at 37 years of age.
That would be surprising.
Marathon, before you have to leave, what else do you got? Any other fights you want to discuss in particular?
I think that pretty much covers it outside of Sandhagen. But do you guys want to go ahead and break down we can just break down the card. I got an hour, so.
Oh, awesome. All right, well then, heck, we'll already get started. We got the whole gang here. We got some live viewers joining us already, 7 people. Appreciate that. So we'll keep it rocking and rolling, boys. We'll start out with the first one. Complete train wreck. Be honest with you, didn't watch very much tape for this fight. I couldn't get very excited about it. But we've got Diana Belbita and Hannah Goldy, women's strawweight fight. Do we got opinions here, boys?
You go ahead.
Yeah, not really. I think if you got in at plus 160 earlier on Belbita, that was probably the play because she probably should be slightly favored. She's the bigger girl, way more experience, and I don't really know what you could say Goldie's good at outside of just looking totally juiced out, So, yeah, if you got in early on Belbita, that was probably a pretty sharp move right there, but no play for me here. I don't really know much about either girl. Belbita, I've done some tape on her, but not really impressed. So
seems like a lower level WMMA fight, and WMMA is already a bit of a money pit for me, if I'm honest, boys. I am trying to get better at betting women's MMA, but right now I'm not good at it. I can acknowledge that and say, hey, this one's going to be an obvious pass for me. How about you, Knockout?
So, I like you touched on already. I think Belbita at plus money was probably a good play. She's a 7-inch reach. Jesus, I can barely speak. 7-inch reach advantage here. Goldy, from what I've seen of her, isn't anything special. I think not that Belbita is a world beater by any means, but I think she should probably be slightly favored here. So, if you got in on the plus money, I think that's a solid play.
Good call. We missed the boat. Boys. It happens.
I got a little bit in there when it was plus
there we go. I should speak for myself. I missed the boat. So, Sijara Eubanks and Elise Reed is the next matchup. It's another WMMA fight. This one's at 125 pounds. Done a little bit better there from a betting perspective. And I do have Sijara Eubanks in a small parlay right now, but that's the only action I have on this fight so far. Considering that Sijara Eubanks inside the distance play. Knockout, we sort of discussed this one via Marathon before. How do you feel about this fight?
Yeah, so I'm pretty much huge on Eubanks here. I got in on her. I'm going to beat the closing line by over 100 points. I have her in a parlay with last week's Sierra fight. Doesn't go the distance. I think it's like 1,200 to like 1,150. So I got Eubanks at minus 240. The first leg already hit, so looking to close this one out with Eubanks. I think really all those props are probably good spots too. Round 1, submission, inside distance. I think this is a pretty big mismatch here. The size difference is crazy. I was laughing. I think probably the first on this card, and I couldn't believe that she was only like minus 240, and so I took a lot of it and. Going to beat the closing line by 100 points. So hopefully she goes out and shoots a takedown.
Does the job.
Yeah.
She handles her end of the bargain. You already did your job. So
she might even win on the feet too, man. She could honestly win on the feet.
Agreed, but the path of least resistance is definitely. Yeah. It might only take one takedown. Sijara Eubanks has a very good top game.
I've seen Reed on her back. I've seen Reed get her back taken on tape. So
by 115 and 105 pounders too.
Yep, big difference. I was saying before with marathon, grapplers sort of know how big of an advantage it is when somebody's got that kind of size. If they already have a skill advantage, it's like you're just a ball of clay now about to be molded. So I think that that's a really good matchup for Sijara Eubanks. Minus 240 is just an unbelievable price. Good snipe. And I think that she's going to win that fight pretty easily. So we are all in consensus there that Sijara is probably the side. Moving right along, we got a bantamweight fight, a little bit different look for Julio Arce, kind of a local fighter for me, Tiger Schulman's guy, fighting with the Shane Burgoses of the world and them. So I like to root for those guys, but I also think it's a little bit interesting spot coming back down to 135 after some mixed results at featherweight. So he's got Andre Ewell, though, which might be a winnable matchup for him. Marathon, you want to kick this one off?
Yeah, so I do have, like I said, I did have the over 2.5 parlayed with Eubanks. I'm not really worried about either guy finishing here. Like I said, Ewell is going to have to stay on the outside and work his kickboxing. And if RK lets him, he's going to win a decision. He's going to cash as an underdog. But RK should look to probably throw some leg kicks here, probably wrestle, put in some pressure. Either way, I got time burning off the clock. So that was the way I played it. As far as the betting line goes, I think maybe Ewell by decision would be a good little stab. It's going to be a weird fight, man, because we haven't seen RK really implement a leg kicking game, which is how I like to fade Ewell. So if you think RK can get takedowns here, maybe, then maybe he's the side. But if I had to play something, probably Ewell decision just to stay at range. He's probably should be able to land at range pretty good here. So that would be probably my only angle.
Fair enough. And how about you, Knockout? What do you think?
Yeah, I think Julio Arce takes care of business here. I think he's a minus 400 grappling path if he wants to take it. I think on the feet, Ewell's solid for a round or so, maybe a round and a half, but he tends to fall off later in fights. I think this is a good move for Arce coming down to 135 pounds. I do think he's a very legit grappler, even if some of the matchups he's had in the past, he hasn't really had a chance to show it, or maybe he's landed a takedown here and a takedown there. But I think, like I said, minus 400 path to victory with takedowns. Even if he doesn't go straight for it, I think he's fine on the feet, especially once the fight leaves the first round. So I think the line should be wider.
Understood. Yeah, and this was a fight I didn't get too deep into. I kind of felt that it was lined pretty correctly. I thought that we should see a pretty significant favor for Julio Arce. But I also think that, I could see Marathon's description playing out to a T. I could see, because he's been off for a little while, him working his way into the fight and giving up that kind of, awkward 29-28 decision to somebody like Ewell. But I also think that Arce is just a better fighter. And as long as he fights to type, he should be winning minutes. And also, I think a late finish, I wouldn't put past somebody like Arce, but that's just my point of view. Oh my God, this is maybe my least exciting fight of the night. Mickey Gall, Jordan Williams at 170 pounds. The narrative on Jordan Williams was that he couldn't cut any weight, and so he would weigh in underweight for his fights at middleweight, and now he's coming down. Interesting to see how that looks. I think that they gave him a very soft landing at 170, all things considered. And so, I'm interested to see how this plays out. That Gregory Rodriguez win has aged a bit better than I thought it would. I thought Dusko might be able to handle Gregory Rodriguez, and I was sadly mistaken there. So, maybe I'm missing something on the Jordan Williams side here, but I felt like this was a stay away fight, especially until weigh-ins. I want to see what both guys look like before I take any action on this fight. Knockout, you want to start us off on this one?
Yeah, I think Mickey Gall is probably the side here. Haven't been particularly impressed with Jordan Williams, especially not as a minus 200 favorite here. Coming down in weight, he's somewhat hittable. He has cardio issues. not that Mickey Gall's a world beater or anything, but he's big. He's high-level BJJ. His stand-up's definitely improved. I was surprised to see him winning exchanges with Mike Perry. I get why Jordan's the favorite here, but I think this line's too wide. I think especially the early line, I got in at plus 171 on Gall, so I'm pretty happy with that right now.
Awesome. We got Bo Miller saying Arce rolls here. We got OK saying I got Minner strictly because of the Krause effect, which I called real. And then Chris, for the love of MMA, says Krause is the man. Oddly enough, wanted to comment. Well, thank you for the good luck, Chris. Appreciate you, man. Marathon, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, no play for me here, especially we're not going to make a player until probably after the weigh-ins. So
I hear that.
I'm not looking to play dog money on Mickey Gall. I just don't trust him, and the dude's lost to the two worst versions of. He's lost to CTE Sanchez and CTE Perry. So I mean, and didn't really look good in either of those fights. So yeah, no play for me here. I think it's pretty low level fight. I don't think of Jordan Williams in a high regard either. So like Knockout said, the cardio is not there. He's really hittable, and I think he said he was doing sickle cell treatments just to get down to this weight. So I'm not really rushing to bet him either.
I hear that. Yeah, it seems like just a weird fight to me. I didn't really know what to make of it. I feel like both guys are kind of like out of place with some of the other competition in the UFC. So I feel like this is a fight for the island of misfit toys. And so I am interested in seeing it in that way. And I do think it might be a loser leaves town type situation. So, we'll see. I feel like Mickey Gall stayed around longer in the UFC than I expected. So maybe he does it again and sneaks another one off Jordan Williams here, trying to do something physically that may or may not be out of reach. So we'll see how it plays out, but I'm interested, and we wish you the best of luck, obviously, as the only one with action so far. Moving along, we got a middleweight fight that a lot of people seem interested in. Ton of people have tickets on this fight, it seems like. We've got Ian Heinisch on one side, Nassourdine Imavov on the other side. I guess we'll kick it over to Marathon for this one. Marathon, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, no play for me here either. I think if you're going to bet, Heinisch is probably the side, about minus 150, I believe, is where people are getting in.
Mm-hmm. I think it's moved to minus 160 now. But, yep, minus 150 was the sweet spot.
The path is so clear, the decision path, just wrestling, pressure. We saw Haas kind of put out the blueprint. Imavov was kind of lost off his back foot, didn't really know what to do in those clinch exchanges on the cage. I just can't trust Heinisch to go out there and follow the easy path that there is. I don't trust him to go and do it. So Imavov probably gets the better of the striking exchanges, but I just can't trust Heinisch to go out and take his clear path, So I decided to stay away. I think that there could possibly be a finish, maybe plus 170 for the fight to finish. That could be a good angle, So I could see either guy getting a third round finish here.
Especially middleweight fights, I think they finish at just over a 50% clip or just around a 50% clip. So if you're getting that kind of plus money, just blindly, it might be a value spot.
I just have a feeling Heinisch comes out here and gets into a fist fight with this dude on the feet, and it just looks close. And I don't know. I don't trust him to shoot. I mean, I did see someone say he has been shooting a lot in recent fights, but
I did think he shot more against Gastelum, which was kind of interesting, but
yeah, I had money on him on Gastelum fight. I think that's probably why I'm off of him here. Just
okay. Yeah, you got the bad taste left in your mouth. I understand. Knockout, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, so actually I disagree in the sense that I think Ian Heinisch is historically very reliable to shoot takedowns. I mean, he's shooting takedowns in spots where he shouldn't even really be shooting takedowns, like you mentioned against Gastelum, and I was on Kelvin in that fight, but I think this is a really good matchup for Heinisch. He pushes a heavy pace, has good kicks, is always looking to get takedowns. He's stronger than Imavov. I kind of like this style matchup for him. His past few fights, he's been fighting good wrestlers like Brunson and Gastelum. And when he can't get them down, he ends up exerting a ton of energy. And I don't think he's going to need to do that here. I think he's going to actually use cardio as a weapon against Imavov here. I think he's going to land a ton of takedowns, get a ton of top time, and similar to a fight we talked about earlier, I think he's fine on the feet too. If this was a 15-minute striking battle, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, Ian's going to lose. Like, it'd probably be a closer fight than it would be if he goes out and shoots 5 takedowns. But I think Heinisch is definitely the side here.
Yep. We got people saying taking Ian, assuming his wrestling will be used. Yep, I agree with that, Chris. Heinisch has faced some really tough wrestlers, hasn't been able to implement his game. Minus 150 is still a great price. I would tend to agree, based on the level of competition that Ian Heinisch has been fighting. Imavov kind of went life or death with Phil Hawes. And, even in that third round when Phil Hawes was like on skates, I just felt like I didn't see the finishing instincts I wanted from Imavov. I might be dealing with the same thing as Marathon in the sense that I have a bad taste in my mouth. I bet Imavov in that fight felt like he had a very clear path to beating Phil Hawes and then just gets pushed against the cage for several minutes. And I was like, man, don't want to back a guy like that. And I think that Heinisch could very well do that. Haven't played it yet. Want to watch a little more tape before I get involved, but I do feel like Ian Heinisch is the side here. I think Imavov's probably not long for the UFC based on what we've seen, but also, I think he is the younger guy. Am I right about that? Yeah, by a pretty significant margin. So there's some reason to believe that he might be making improvements, but I also think that Heinisch right now presenting a better product and has fought way better competition. So that would be why I side Heinisch. Haven't taken action yet, but would consider doing so. Moving right along the card. Next up, we have a matchup in the middleweight division. This would be, if it's not the Yanez and Costa fight, then it's probably this fight as the people's main event of the week. Brendan Allen and Punahele Soriano. I think it's a very fun middleweight fight for the featured prelim. I'm really excited about this one. We will kick it to knockout first. How do you feel about this very fun middleweight matchup?
Yeah, like you said, a very fun middleweight matchup. It's a great way to put it. Obviously, Brendan Allen is a high-level grappler, hasn't looked too great on the feet. And then on the other side, you have Soriano, who hits like a truck, especially early, coming off a couple good knockout wins. He has that wrestling background. Close fight to call. I think either fighter has the potential to look like a pretty big hindsight favorite here. As the fight goes down the line, I probably favor Brendan Allen a little bit better. You got to think if it's an Allen win, it probably involves a grappling heavy game plan. I don't really see him winning this fight on the feet. And I don't think we've seen too much of Soriano off of his back. So I think that's a pretty big question mark here. Who knows? He could end up on his back and look terrible, or he could get right back up every time. So it's a pretty big question mark in this fight. Anytime Soriano fights, especially against someone with the striking defense or lack thereof, Brendan Allen, he's very live for an early knockout. But I'm probably not going to touch a side here on the money line and just enjoy it.
Sounds like a plan. Now, what I thought was interesting about this was that it opened so heavy for Puna. And I do think that if people got involved when it was plus 180 or something like that on Brendan Allen, I think obviously there's going to be some value there. But I also think that Puna is probably a justified favorite here. I think the odds makers are right about that. I don't know that we'll ever see Puna on his back in this matchup. And it's possible, but I think that his sprawl game looks pretty good. His wrestling scrambles look pretty fast. And I do think that somebody can use that kind of explosive wrestling to just avoid exchanges, especially in the first round. And I do think that, somebody like Sean Strickland doesn't necessarily have one punch power. He kind of walked Jack Marshman around the octagon, hitting him at will and didn't put him away. And he was able to put away Brendan Allen by, just putting hard shots on him. And I think that Puna, if he hits him with any kind of similar shots, could definitely put Brendan's lights out. And for that reason alone, I would favor Puna here slightly. But I also think that based on knockouts point, it's like the more unknowns there are in a matchup, the closer the line should be to 50-50 in my mind. And I think that there are unknowns on the Puna side that, temper my confidence. So I would line Puna somewhere between minus 135 and minus 150 here. I'm involved right now, one unit on Puna at minus 110. I feel like this is the time to get in on Puna. I think there's going to be a little market buyback on him before fight time, but we'll see. I also have a small wager, 0.25 units on Puna to win by knockout in the first round at plus 385. I think that's a lot of his win equity here. I would agree with knockout that as the fight goes on, we're probably going to see a better Brendan Allen. But I also haven't been thrilled by what I saw from Brendan Allen's cardio. He's huffing and puffing in a lot of his fights, even when he's winning. When he's putting on a grappling heavy game, he's huffing and puffing himself. And I think that Puna will carry power whether he's tired or not. And so even if he starts to tire a little bit, if Brendan Allen is commensurately tired, I think he could knock him out still. So I think that may be a sneaky angle, but that's how I'm targeting it. And I thought that the plus 385 or plus 375 maybe was a better look than the plus 275 or whatever it was for round one, because I don't think Puna is going to submit Brendan Allen. He has a couple submissions on his record, but I don't see that at all. Kind of a big, long, lanky guy. Puna is a guy who wants to just put power shots on you. So Marathon, how do you feel about this fight?
Yeah, so I do have 2 units on Puna at minus 108, and then I have another unit on him by knockout plus 200. So
very nice.
Yeah, so I do have a pretty good read on this fight. I feel like, this fight's going to play outstanding. I do think, Puna's no slouch in the wrestling department. He's a D3 All-American wrestler. And when it's what do we know about Brendan Allen on the feet? He doesn't move his head. There's no head movement. He's got a 39% striking defense. And, I mean, the dude's been hurt by, even in the fights he's winning, he's getting hurt. I mean, Kyle Dawkins hurt him on the feet. You know what I mean? Like, I just think Puna probably finds the knockout here. It's going to play outstanding. And, Allen's one of those guys who, he has the good jiu-jitsu, but he doesn't have that real good wrestling game to get it down there and use his jiu-jitsu. So I just think, Puna's just going to be – every shot he throws is to kill you. So I just don't see how he doesn't connect here, man. I'm all over him here. I might even add.
I hear that. Now, to give a little bit of credit to Brendan Allen, I agree with you. I think that his wrestling game is not as sophisticated and developed. I think a lot of it is upper body. And I think for that reason, he's going to struggle against Puna. Puna is just a big body to wrap around. If you want to try and body lock somebody like Puna, just if he leans forward, his back muscles are going to unbreak your grip. Like, I think it's going to be hard to do what Brendan Allen normally would want to do. If he comes out here looking like a shot wrestler, going for takedowns below the waist, I think that he might actually have a better chance and maybe throw Puna off guard. But what we've seen from Brendan Allen is a wrestling approach that's mostly upper body, and that is the reason that I favor Puna. But I also will say Puna did look a little awkward in some of his transitions in the Pahota fight when he was grappling for brief times. And that was when he had already hurt guys, got caught in a Kimura trap for a little while that he had to work his way through. So to give some credence to the other side, I think that we are going to see better grappling on the Brendan Allen side. But like you said, Marathon, I don't know that we're necessarily going to get it playing out on the ground. I do think that Puna is able to stuff most of the takedown attempts, keep it upright, and find a finish.
One more thing, too. We know Allen likes to fall in love with his hands in some fights, man. And if he does that here, this isn't going to be a sweaty fight. And
nope.
People are talking about Puna's cardio. Like you said, Puna's still going to pack a punch whether he's gassed or not. And Allen, we've seen Allen fade in fights too. We know Allen has grit. We know he's tough, but we've seen him get real sloppy in the third round. So,
absolutely. So, next fight on the card. This is another one that people are really excited about. We had touched on this before, the Yanez and Costa fight. So if anybody has closing thoughts there, we can hammer those out or any action they want to get off their chest. But otherwise, we can move right along to the women's flyweight bout. What do you guys think?
Go ahead.
Are we talking about the Yanez fight or?
Yeah, if you want to go back over it, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, no, I already touched on the Yanez fight. Knockout, did you have a play on that fight?
I don't. I think if you get the under 2.5 or fight doesn't go the distance, it's probably a really safe bet here.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan. We got Don saying Puna by KO. We got Chris saying Puna is strong physically. If not center of the cage for takedown attempts, should be able to stuff most of them. I would tend to agree. So, yeah, we can move right along. We got Macy Barber, Miranda Maverick. This is like, kind of strange matchmaking a little bit from the UFC. Sink or swim, I feel like, is what they're saying to Macy Barber, at least. Coming off a couple losses, a couple tough ones at that. They're putting her feet right back to the fire, in my opinion. Miranda Maverick, one of the top prospects in the division, and I think that it should be an interesting matchup. Marathon, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so I got 2 units here on Maverick minus 130. Got a
Very
good price.
nice.
Got a good price on her. I just don't see what Barber, outside of maybe knockout upside, has over Maverick. I think she's just kind of better everywhere this fight goes. Would I be surprised? I mean, maybe Barber can hurt her early, but I just don't see it happening, man. Maverick's really strong. She's going to be better in the grappling department. She's going to be better at range, 100%. She just seems like, she knows what she's good at, man. She's really, really smart girl. And I just, especially with how they've been interviewing lately, how Maycee Barber sounded, she's just so full of herself. She continues to be overvalued by the betting market. And I just think Maverick is just a lock, man. I hate to say it, but I just don't. I think we got 30-27 here all day. She's just going to be better everywhere, honestly. And I don't like Barber moving camps all the time. She hasn't really found. And, I don't even know if Alpha Male is a good fit for her. So I got Maverick all day here, man.
I hear that. We got okay in the comments saying Yanez, Maverick, Minner, Phillips, lock. I never use the word lock unless I'm talking about Manpreet, but I appreciate the feedback. Thank you very much. Knockout, how do you feel about this one? I think this is a tough matchup.
Yeah, I don't have too many strong feelings about this fight. I think Maverick's slight favorite is probably justified. Probably a little bit more difficult to fight considering they're both so young. And at that age, you can make pretty significant improvements from fight to fight. Like to your point too, weird matchmaking by the UFC here. I don't know why they'd match these up against each other, especially when Macy's lost 2 in a row now. So I'm probably going to be on the sidelines for this one, but we'll see.
Understood. Yeah, and I mean, even just looking at the stats, not a ton of data from Miranda Maverick, but what we have seen is just phenomenal. And so for that reason, it's kind of hard to get in front of somebody like Miranda Maverick. And then if you're trying to use Maycee Barber to be the person to stand in front of her with, it's like you couldn't be picking a worse time to come in on the Maycee Barber side, coming off of 2 losses and coming off of some injuries as well. I think Knockout's right that we could see significant improvements here. That's like the greatest unknown, I feel like, in this matchup. But I also feel like we could be seeing improvements on both sides. That's not just exclusive to the Barber side. And so I think that we will see improvements from Miranda Maverick here as well. And I think that she's already put out a better product. Granted, she has not faced the same level of competition. And so that could be the X factor here. But without action on this fight, I would say I lean Maverick pretty confidently. But again, having been bit on WMMA so many times, I'm going to wait till weigh-ins. I had the Yana Kunitskaya side, and then I see Irene Aldana misses weight by 4 pounds, and I'm hoping that the girl's going to go out there and grapple her. So don't want to get in that kind of situation again. Going to wait for weigh-ins before I get involved. But I do think that Maverick, if I can get a shorter than minus 150 price, I would consider getting involved in. Moving right along the card, we are back where we started again. Darren Elkins, Derek Minner. I think we basically got what we needed to get on that fight out of the way. So we can move to Kyler Phillips, the man who looks like Jesus Christ, and Raulian Paiva. Very interesting fight. Paiva's moving up a division, former flyweight. I feel like he's like a darling of the betting community because he's been shafted in a couple fights and things like that. But, I think we got an interesting one on our hands here. Kyler Phillips been making a pretty good account of himself, a fun style, if nothing else, a lot of fun to watch. So I think that we got a good one here. Knockout, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I think Kyler Phillips being a big favorite is justified here. I think he's very good. Has a very bright future, well-rounded, good striking, good jiu-jitsu. Paiva's not bad either. I just kind of think that Phillips has him covered. I'm not playing anything on this fight, but I think Kyler at like 70-75% is probably fair.
Heard that. Marathon, how do you feel about this one?
I just feel like the line has got a little wide. It's got a little out of hand. He's approaching -300. I can't do it, man. I just think Paiva's going to probably, have some pretty competitive exchanges with him on the feet. Paiva's a black belt on his back, and Paiva throws good kicks. He's got quick hands. Up a weight class, not sucking himself out. This is probably where he should have been, And Phillips is good, but I've also seen Phillips get backed up a lot too, So I wouldn't be surprised if Paiva's the aggressor in this fight. I also can't count on Phillips to shoot takedowns here, even though he has in the past. But the price is really dependent on if he lands takedowns, and in my opinion, obviously. But I just can't trust him at -300 against Paiva, who has always given a good account of himself, So Paiva by decision.
I do hear you there.
Paiva by decision, man, for some lunch money. I wouldn't hate it, but with how everyone is so confident on Phillips, man, it's kind of scares me off the Paiva line, just because I've seen some pretty hot takes on Kyler, and a lot of sharp people I respect are on him. But it's a stay away from me at the price. Maybe -200 I'd get in, but 300 can't do it, man. You're telling me he's going to look as dominant as Eubanks? It's hard to sell me on.
I hear that.
I think Eubanks absolutely destroys that girl, and I just, you're telling me Kyler is going to look -300 and Eubanks is -300. I'll take Eubanks line all day over that line. So
absolutely. And I would say that Raulian Paiva, even though he's been competitive, he has had like a negative strike differential. He's been getting outstruck over the course of his UFC career. And I think that Kyler Phillips is probably going to outstrike him here. But like you said, can I see some competitive exchanges where Raulian Paiva could look live, especially later in the fight, where he's not sucked out? And Kyler Phillips, I don't think he had suspect cardio, but I do think that he slowed down in terms of output over the course of the rounds. Where I like to see somebody try and maintain a pretty even tempered output. I felt like his output sort of went on a decline. And so I do think that might be a cause for concern. Raulian Paiva could sort of fight his way back into this fight. And so for that reason, I would agree, maybe not looking to lay a -265 or whatever it is. But if the market contracts a little bit, I think right now the public's just all over Kyler Phillips in this fight. So there's probably just not going to be a good opportunity to get in. And that's all right. Sometimes we got to look and say, hey, the value's already been extracted and it is now time to pass. But I think that should be a fun fight and another showcase of the very competitive bantamweight division. So a fun new addition, I think, in Raulian Paiva. Don't know how long he'll be able to stick around because it's an absolute meat grinder of a division, but should be a fun one, and we'll see how it plays out. We've got a women's bantamweight co-main event, which just feels wrong to say. Aspen lad, Macy, Chaisson. I think that this is a fight, again, not one that I was particularly interested in from a betting perspective. We got a big favorite on the one side who hasn't been very active, who's coming off of injuries. And, Macy Chaisson, I haven't been altogether too impressed with her UFC run. I don't think she's a bad fighter by any means, but just, a competitive fight with Marion Renault at this stage in her career, unless you're coming off a 5-year layoff, doesn't look so good. So I wasn't sold on either side in this fight. We'll kick it over to Marathon first. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, so I do think Macy's probably the side. Good striking, constantly improving. She's pretty big for the weight class.
Yeah,
I do feel like she's gonna have success if she keeps this fight at range. And Lad is coming off, she blew out her whole knee, man. ACL, MCL, that's, I don't care who you are. It kind of gets, how would I say it? In combat sports, we don't look at it as such a big deal as it is in the NBA or the NFL, but you're human. You blow out, you tore up your whole knee, man. It's going to be a hard recovery. And, she's going to go in there and she's probably going to look a little timid in the first, probably a little bit weird on her feet. So She even mentioned it in the media day that she's had a really hard, tough road to recovery. So Chaisson, probably decision. I wouldn't hate it. I mean, Ladd's going to put her head down and just try to get this up in the clinch. And, I mean, she can get lit up doing that, man. So I'm not rushing to lay minus 180, 190 on Ladd off of a ACL, MCL tear. And, you know, Aspen Ladd, she's shown cardio problems, and she's also had a couple fortunate wins in the UFC that went her way. So, like I said, the Eubanks fight should have been a draw. I mean, Eubanks 10-8'd her in the third. That's just, I don't know, man. I'm not laying that. And if I had to lay anything, probably Macy by decision. So
Very nice.
that'd be my angle. And Macy's gonna always, you know, she's gonna keep improving. She's at a good camp at Fortis, so she does seem like one of those girls that's gonna keep taking leaps in her games.
I feel that. Bo Miller in the comments saying, Ladd dominates on the ground. Don't rate Chaisson at all. She's out here getting dropped by Renault and out-grappled by Landsberg. Interesting.
Dude, that is so similar to what I was going to say. That's why I'm cracking up.
Okay.
Bo Miller.
All right, knockout. Let us hear it.
No,
Drop the hammer.
I was just going to say that, like, Macy dropped a round on the feet to 44-year-old Marion Renault. She was out-grappled by Lena Landsberg. I'm not going to mince words here. I think Macy's terrible. I think size is really her only saving grace as an MMA fighter. She's all right on the feet. She's nothing special. Like I said, dropped the round to Marion Renault, who we just saw last weekend. So that's fresh in our heads, how Marion Renault looked in that fight. Aspen Ladd isn't anything special striking, but her grappling is miles better. I expect her to get takedowns here and dominate on the mat. I think she's actually very live to finish the fight via either ground and pound or submission. Macy, every time she gets taken down, just accepts bottom position, doesn't really try to get up. Might throw a weak sub attempt up from bottom, but I think she's going to get steamrolled here.
Okay, interesting. So we have Bo Miller hops back in the comments to say, really need to dive into Ladd's mom's OnlyFans before making an informed decision. Tape matters. I will be sitting out of that. You can have a film room session all to your own on that, Bo Miller. But thank you for being part of the show. I think that Aspen Ladd, you know, when I rewatched some of the tape on Aspen Ladd, because it's sort of been a while, I was kind of taken aback by that Yana Kunitskaya fight. I thought that was way more competitive than I remembered it being. And then she just sprints across, lands one big punch, and the fight's sort of over, like right to her wheelhouse and finishes the job. But I don't want to lay the minus 200 on Aspen Ladd, given what we know about, like you pointed out, the injury and everything like that. This is, for me, just going to be a sit back, gather information, and maybe attack the board next time. But I don't really want to get involved in this fight. Don't plan on it right now, unless I see something at weigh-ins that just jumps off the page at me, something like that. I'm probably just going to end up sitting this one out because I don't make money betting on women's bantamweights fights. I just light it on fire. So instead, we will kick it over to a fight that I have been absolutely salivating over since they announced it the first time. Really excited about this fight. And we've got the ultimate showcase for the bantamweight division. We got returning champion TJ Dillashaw coming back from a trip to the principal's office, as the great Chaisson would say. He had to sit out, had a little red tape to deal with. And instead now we've got Cory Sandhagen, who stepped up in his absence, the surging contender in the division, riding a win streak, pretty impressive looking knockouts. Maybe some of the competition could be questioned whether their durability is what it used to be on the Frankie Edgar side, by example, on the Marlon Moraes side, by example. But nonetheless, we've seen a very impressive body of work so far from Cory Sandhagen in the UFC. And then we've got TJ Dillashaw, multiple-time champion, whose resume speaks for itself. You know, that loss to Henry Cejudo kind of spiraled his career out of control in the sense that, you know, that's when he gets in trouble. That's also a fight that he lost probably because he decided to go down. And, you know, if you're to believe TJ's rationale, that's the only reason he used the EPO too, is just to make 125. So I think it's all leading to a very interesting comeback for TJ, right? We've got the drug angle. We've got the layoff angle. We've got the 35 years old in the bantamweight division angle. So there's a lot. We got the old in the face angle, if you believe MMA Twitter too. He did look a little old in the face in some of those pictures. So I will kick it over to Knockout first. How do you feel about this fight, man? Main event. We got a heck of a fight at bantamweight. I'd love to know what you think.
Yeah, so I love this fight from a fan perspective. This is the best fight night headline in a while. I mean, it's better than the one next week. It was better than the one the week before that. Yeah, I think Cory obviously has been on a roll lately. He's younger. He's a very fluid striker. Probably one of the best strikers in the division, if not the entire UFC. He's a really good striker. TJ, obviously, as we know, fluid striker himself, but 35-year-old bantamweight nonetheless, coming off a 2.5-year layoff, which was a result of PED suspension. Big red flags all around. And he's also coming off of his last fight was a pretty brutal knockout down at a weight class he shouldn't have even been in. And then on the Sandhagen side, the main concern is obviously the wrestling. We saw what Aljamain Sterling did to him in the grappling. I think Aljamain Sterling and TJ Dillashaw have different pedigrees of grappling. TJ Dillashaw isn't really much of a submission grappler. Is he live to land some takedowns? Probably. Is he going to take Cory's back like Aljo did? Probably not. So I agree with Sandhagen being the favorite here. I kind of have a hard time grasping the idea of laying -200 on him, though, with the wrestling question mark. And like I said, I do think Aljamain Sterling is pretty much a specialist at what he does. Back takes. And I think if you take the jiu-jitsu aspect out of it, I think once Cory gets taken down, he's pretty good at popping right back to his feet. But against Aljamain Sterling, you pop back to your feet, you give your back. It could be a very quick night. And I was on Aljamain in that fight at like -120 or something like that. But I don't really have the same interest in playing TJ here. I think there's a ton of question marks, a ton of red flags on his side. I have no bets on the fight, but I'm picking Cory to win, probably by knockout.
I would tend to feel the same way. Real quick, Marathon, before I bring you in, I just wanted to say we got Alan Jacobson in the comments. I went to high school in Temecula with Kyler. Kid's a savage, told me he was going to be a fighter when he was 15. So shout out to Alan Jacobson and Kyler Phillips, who apparently has been training for this for a long time. Bo Miller says TJ sub at +1400 is how he's targeting the fight. Chris says that he likes Sandy here. Hard not to like him. TJ's been gone too long. Marathon, do you agree with the consensus of the public that Cory Sandhagen should be a big favorite here, or are you on the opposite side? You like TJ Dillashaw?
I do agree, man. I got 4 units, so pretty hefty bet on Cory -170.
Okay.
I mean, we all kind of know
Good
the
line.
story. We all know the story here. Big layoff, bantamweight, 35. It's usually a fade for all three of us. I'm sure we liked fading the older bantamweights. It's been a good angle for a while now. So, and everyone's bringing up the TJ wrestling angle, but I think Cory's had a takedown landed on him in 6 of his 8 UFC fights, and he's only lost 1 of those. So he has a good get-up game. He's good off his back. And TJ's not Aljo. They're 2 different archetypes. They're not. And, I just think Cory has 5 rounds, and he is a sniper. He has 5 rounds to knock this dude out. And that's just too much time, man. He's gonna find it. I do think the under 3.5 probably cashes too. He's probably.
That's where I'm at on this fight.
I'd say TJ gets knocked out within 3 rounds. We've seen videos. I sent you the video actually, Liam, of TJ saying years ago, preparing for the cruise camp, on how much problems Cory gave him on the feet in sparring. And we all know TJ's a punk in sparring. He doesn't like losing sparring sessions. Cory wasn't even in the UFC, man. He was giving TJ problems on the feet. I also saw a video of Curtis Blades saying that TJ used to literally lose his shit sparring Cory at Muscle Farm. And this is just a young Cory Sandhagen who's on the regional scene. So do I think TJ's improved since then? No, I don't. I think TJ is a shell of himself now, and he's trying to make this some kind of redemption story, but you give him Cory Sandhagen right off the bat, and it's just he has 5 rounds to knock this dude out. Is he going to land takedowns? Yeah, I'll probably land a couple, but he's not going to put Cory in any bad spots. He might get in half guard. He might, at best get half guard. He's not gonna take his back. He's not gonna put him in mount. And Cory's just coming into the best version of himself, and he's the hot guy. He's the hot fighter, and it just, I don't know. All signs for me point to Cory. And like I said, the old bantamweight angle has been working for all of us for years, man. It's not a weight class you want to come in looking old in. So I definitely like Cory here to get the knockout.
I have a little story to add on top of that, talking about the interviews and stuff. I listened to this podcast called The School of Greatness, and this is like a while ago, way before this fight was even announced. It's not an MMA podcast. It's nothing to do with it. They just have like all different kinds of like personalities on it to talk about like mindset and stuff like that. And so this was years ago. They had TJ Dillashaw on, and so obviously I listened to the episode, and they were asking like, "Oh, do you like dominate people in camp and stuff?" And he was like, "No, actually, there's this kid who's not even in the UFC that I sparred with today that was getting the best of me." And he was talking about Cory Sandhagen, and it was just funny. Like that podcast must have been from like 2017 or 2018, something like that. And the second the fight got announced, I remember back to that, and I was like, "Oh, not that it's again, like there." I wrestled as you did as well. Like there were plenty of times where I lost to kids in the room who I beat in a match, and it's just a completely different atmosphere sometimes. But I just thought that was an interesting little tidbit of information, because during the week there were some people who were like alluding to like, "Oh, I know who won in sparring, but I'm not going to say." And I was like, I remember TJ saying it like 3 or 4 years ago. So just a little.
It's nothing to make a betting line off of, but it is something to just kind of bring up,
Yeah.
It's an added nugget to add to a bunch of other data, and I do think that the data points towards Cory Sandhagen in this spot. But if I was to talk about my concerns, I think that I watched back some of Cory's fights where he likes forcing the grappling exchange. If somebody's trying to wrestle, he likes forcing a grappling exchange, and I do think that could put him in some compromised positions. They say that power is the last thing to go. I do think that even if he's just in half guard, TJ could probably posture up and land some decent shots. And I think that while Cory is going to be the better and more effective striker, in a striking fight, there's a decent amount of volatility. And I think that because they have similarities in their footwork, they might kind of bump into each other, like run into each other, clash heads in the pocket and things like that. And I think that Cory is probably the tougher guy at this point. But I do think that is a little bit of a cause for concern. I targeted the under 3.5 rounds in this fight because I feel like it's going to be, a high exchange rate fight. And this was the same kind of logic I used for the McGregor-Poirier under 2.5 both times. And the price got way shorter in the rematch because everybody's talking about now it's going to go 5 rounds. And I was on Conor, but I also felt regardless in both fights, because of how Conor fights, the pace of exchange is going to be very high. So it's going to be won or lost on a high pace of exchanges. And I think that Cory Sandhagen forces a high rate of exchanges. And I think that TJ Dillashaw will oblige him on the feet. I do think that sometimes recklessly TJ will stay in the pocket with somebody because he likes to shift and move. And I think Cory's probably going to catch him in one of those shifts. But because I am trying to show some respect to the champ, I went with the under 3.5 at minus 165, just for a small wager so far, less than a unit, but going to watch a tiny bit more tape, want to see how they look at weigh-ins, make sure that Cory comes in looking good. But I kind of like the price right now. I think it's creeping back down. It's minus 193. I think I saw before we started recording. So if that price continues to come down a little bit on Cory, I'm probably going to get involved on the money line perspective. We've got Alan Jacobson real quick before we go, says thoughts on a possible parlay with Kyler and Sandman. I'm getting like minus 190, was not quick to the lines. From my perspective, would probably look to target somebody like Cory straight because he's under minus 200. That's how I would approach it. But if you boys have a different take, if you guys have anything for Mr. Jacobson, it was Kyler and Sandman.
I'll just say that, like, parlaying fights doesn't change the line. You're just essentially taking the money that you would have won on the first bet and
betting it on the
placing it in
second
bet. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people kind of don't really grasp that concept. I'm trying to like get in a good light here, but I'll talk from right here. Yeah, so if you wouldn't play him at minus 190 straight, don't play him at minus 190 in a parlay, and vice versa. Like, it's literally just you're making two bets. Like, I feel like a lot of people kind of still don't understand what a parlay is, but that's my 2 cents.
Absolutely. I keep trying. I even have to remind myself sometimes. It's the same thing. If you're betting somebody inside the distance, you're just betting two bets at the same time. You're just betting that the person's going to win and that the fight's not going to go to decision. So, I think that sometimes when books offer those multi-way markets, it can throw off, even people who've been gambling for a little while, like, oh, that's a good number. Maybe I should get involved. We always got to remember it's about numbers. It's about implied percentages. And it's about beating the books. At the end of the day, that's what we're always trying to do. It is the good guys. That's us. That's my guests on the show. And that's all you guys who are watching. So we appreciate you. We wish everybody the very best of luck. If you're betting on UFC Vegas 32, do so responsibly. Make sure you have a lot of fun, and hopefully you cash a bunch of tickets. On the way out here, I want to say thank you very much to MMA Knockout Bets, to Marathon MMA. Thank you guys so much for coming on. And I'm going to kick it over to you, Knockout, first, to just say, where can the people find you and anything else that you want to get off your chest, man?
Yeah, Liam, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. It was a fun time talking with you guys. Marathon, good time. My Twitter handle is at Bets and Picks MMA. It's MMA Knockout Bets is the title. I have like 3.5 years now. Yeah, halfway through year 4 of tracking, which is crazy. So over 1,000 bet sample size, and hopefully going to have a few thousand more. So again, appreciate the time, and good luck to everyone this weekend.
Absolutely. We really appreciated having you on. And Marathon, how about you, man?
Yeah, just at Marathon MMA on Twitter, just like right here on the StreamYard. And then, man, 14% ROI. And actually, me and Knockout have the exact same units profited right now, 147 apiece.
Wow. Congratulations to the two of you guys. I am far behind Chaisson, having a lot of fun. I am a degenerate, folks. That's why I bring on some guys who are a turd profit, who are really smart in this game. Make sure that you go with their takes, opinions, always a little bit more grain of salt with mine. But God bless you all. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope that you have appreciated and enjoyed these two sharp minds coming in and sharing some action with us. Thank you guys for being a part of it. And until next time, this has been Liam Picks Fights. God bless you all. Enjoy those fights. Good guys versus the bookies. We'll see you next week.